A lot of women will ask me about decentering a man that they're with, a man that they're living with, or their husband. And I'm going to give you my top 3 things that I have done and tried and seen work. But before that, a little disclaimer. Because in general, I think decentering men is mostly about getting in touch with yourself and kind of getting back agency and responsibility in your own life. But if you are in a relationship with a man, usually it provides this mirror or this focal point that really allows you to see the extent to which you do center men and the extent to which you are orienting your entire life around that relationship. Like, when I first started decentering men, I was engaged and I was living with a guy. And it was very clear to me that I had made him and the relationship the organizing principle of my life. But the thing that's tricky is that if you are domestically partnering with a man, that's kind of the contract. That's actually kind of the agreement that you're signing up to. You're saying, I'm not going to be a sovereign, independent agent making my own decisions in a vacuum anymore. You're saying, I will check in with you about whether I take that trip or spend that money or what I do during my day, or if, what I do with my genitals, if you guys are doing monogamy. And because the different ways that men and women are socialized, I probably will submit and concede to you more. If you're trying to decenter men and you've already made an agreement to domestically partner with a man, it's kind of like playing the game on hard mode, which is why the first thing I would say in terms of how to do this would be to try and consciously shift the agreement that you've made. Because you've agreed, you have a certain agreement field about how it is that you're going to partner for life and navigate life together and check in with each other. That's all wrapped up in the original contract. And so what I tried to do was actually sit down with the guy and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I'm going through a phase where I'm trying to discover myself. I want to start a new chapter. I want you to partner with me in that. That's what this is going to look like. That's what this is going to mean for you. You want to actually ally and get this guy on your side, maybe even get him excited about doing it together, about doing it with you. I want us to have more autonomy. I want us to have more agency. I want us to be more romantic with each other. I want us to have a renaissance of who we are in our relationship. All the things that you're excited for you, think about if he could be excited for that too. And, he might say with his words, yes, yes, and then not exactly be able to follow it through with his actions. And of course, relationships involve long, drawn out, ongoing negotiation processes around this sort of stuff. But at least you can get that fresh, conscious, articulated moment on the table where you're like, hey, babe, this is what I'm doing. I want your support. Recruit him, enlist him to help you. And because you're partnering, it's not just for you, it's for him. Be like, let's dream about this next chapter of our life. What do we want together and separately? And sometimes the guy will say, yes, 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 and be all about it until it comes to a moment where it's confronting for him or inconvenient for him. And then that's where you have to learn that conflict skill of holding tension, of being able to stay connected to yourself while you're still relating to him. And be like, this is important to me. I wanted this. We talked about this. I'm going to do this. Which takes me to number 2 point is I think it's actually really helpful to have infrastructural things that allow you to center yourself. This is what I did when I was engaged, and it was really helpful, is I started hobbies where I had to be out of the house during specific times, and I was very unwavering about it. I started a date with myself on Saturdays, and I would have that date with myself religiously, where it was my time just for a few hours. And of course, a million things came up that needed to be taken care of, and the garden this and the plumber that. And I held strong. I was like, this is my time. I trust you. I believe you. You can handle this on your own. Thank you for supporting me. I'm going to go do my thing. Obviously, this relationship totally fell apart because he wouldn't agree with me on these sort of things. But it did give me a lot of practice trying and holding it. And ultimately, it did make me hopeful that if there was a relationship where the agreement field was different, it could hold. And I think having those things in place, it just kind of takes the decision-making and the negotiation, the conversation out of it. You're like, hey, I have my dance class Tuesdays and Thursdays. Hey, I have a regular date with a friend. I'm going to go do that. And then the third thing that I would recommend is there's this idea of frame. there's this idea of frame that they actually teach in pickup, which is men are always trying to get a woman in their frame. And actually, a lot of women are really looking to get into a man's frame. That's what makes us really vulnerable, is we actually want to find a man where we can surrender and let him lead and enjoy the way that he perceives the world and all that kind of stuff. So men are always trying to get you in their frame. So are governments, so are religions, so is the mass media, so is absolutely everything. They all want us in their frame. But it's like, if you're in a man's frame, then you're believing with his values, you're agreeing with his way of seeing the world, all that kind of stuff. And so this third one's a little harder, but it's really trying to ground in your own frame. What is your story about yourself and about reality? What is your cosmovision about who you are and what matters to you in life? And then how can you go about living each and every day as if that's true? So part of the frame that helped me in that relationship was that nothing is more important to me than my spiritual path. And I had a very strong sense of what my spirituality was. And it really helped me when those times got kind of gnarly. And it was a choice between just going with his way when it was easier and standing for my way when it was harder. And I would say, no, my spirituality is beautiful and valid and deep and real. And it is more important for me to do this than to do the laundry and the dishes. And another part of my frame that I was able to ground into is that I, as a woman, am connected to something that he doesn't understand. I have learned to speak boy. He doesn't speak girl. And so there's a part of me that's always going to be unknown and unknowable to him. And that I'm more interested in that part of me than anything he has to teach me. And just being grounded in that frame of my path is the most important thing to me. And there's something of my connection to the earth, to life as a woman, that is more interesting to me, that requires all of my devotion, that allowed me to stay in my own frame and center myself through some of those domestic negotiations.